If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com and use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, GoPowercat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Now, here's your host, GoPowercat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Powercat Postgame Podcast, following Kansas State's 38-21 road victory at Texas Tech on Saturday night. I'm GoPowercat publisher Tim Fitzgerald, joined by our staff's own Cole Carmody here in the Cats and Dogs studio in Manhattan. Zach Carlson and Ryan Gilbert are on the ground in Lubbock, still doing post-game coverage as we speak. But we hit the record button as soon as we could, as soon as I was done doing other stuff. But let's read some stats here, Cole.
Please do.
First of all, hello. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Glad you brought a producer with you.
Yep.
We could use the help. Total yards, Texas Tech outgained Kansas State 480 to 436. Passing yards, 298 to 163. K-State did have more rushing yards, of course, 273 to 162. Penalties, 5 for 45 for both teams. First downs, 23-23. You just go down these stats and you see a close game. In fact, Texas Tech ran 79 plays to 64 yards. Or 64 for Kansas State. What am I saying? K-State had a slight edge in time of possession. Now the turnovers were a bit telling. 3 for Tech and 0 for K-State. Cole, can you come up with what was maybe the difference in the game between these two teams, since the stats don't show any difference?
One freshman quarterback was really, really good, and one freshman quarterback was really, really bad.
Yes, that was it. Avery Johnson comes in. He was going to rotate with Will Howard throughout the game. We knew that coming in. Well, we expected that. Chris Kleiman had basically said that. It looked like it was going to happen, and it happened. And K-State may never look back. Avery Johnson absolutely incredible. Now, look, defenses are going to adjust to him, but he had 5 rushing touchdowns. He scored every K-State touchdown after Will Howard led the offense down the field for 3 points on the opening drive. 5 rushing touchdowns.
It's incredible.
And it wasn't like he was picking up, we get it down to the one, everyone takes down the one, you score. He earned these. In fact, a 30-yard run right through that Tech defense to give K-State the lead back in the third quarter, and K-State never looked back. Was absolutely electric. It was incredible. This kid is so fast, reads blocks so well. I don't care if you do try to defend him. He'll run through any gap and get up the field. He's just efficient. He opened up the run game for Trayshawn Ward, who went for 118 on 15 carries. So Trayshawn Ward averaged 7.9 yards per carry, and Avery Johnson 7.6 yards per carry. That's just killer. He didn't break 100 yards, but he broke a lot of hearts in Lubbock. 12 carries, 91 yards, 5 freaking touchdowns, Cole.
He could have had 6.
Yes, he could have.
Instead of scoring another touchdown, Avery Johnson decided to be a nice gentleman and ice out the game, which, by the way, Texas Tech calling timeouts to try and get the ball back down 17 points with 2 minutes left to go in the game. I don't think Chris Kleiman would have been too frustrated with Avery Johnson had he just walked into the end zone on his final run. I have never seen a quarterback run the way that Avery does. You've seen quarterbacks like Colin Klein who can read blocks, and then they have the explosiveness to get down the field. They can take a hit, get right back up. I've seen quarterbacks who have speed that can get to the edge, who can make cuts. But Avery Johnson runs the ball like a running back, and he's faster than everybody on the field. I mean, that is, to me, the most crazy part about this game was K-State decided in the most important time of the game on a 3rd and 10 with arguably, the season in the balance. Instead of throwing the football or trying to run a crossing route, they ran quarterback power, and he took it to the house. That was the defining moment in that game.
He's not really a power runner either. He's, I was surprised by this. Coaches meet with the TV talent before every game, usually on Thursday. Mm-hmm. Sometimes our coordinators are late coming to our press opportunity because they're still talking to the TV announcers. Chris Kleiman told the guys from FS1 who weren't there, another studio performance. They actually did a pretty good.
I thought they were good,
that Avery Johnson's the fastest guy on the team, and it's not even close. I had not heard that. I had heard he was one of the fastest. But for him to say he's the fastest, not even close, and he showed it. He's not just fast, he's quick. You got to understand the difference between those two, because when he cut, he's up to top speed pretty damn quick, and he's out.
Yeah.
It's amazing because Tech eventually adjusted, so he handed the ball to Trayshawn, and Trayshawn tore him up.
He looked good, by the way.
He looked
great. That is a storyline that we'll have to talk more about this week. I think it's pretty clear who your number 1 running back should be right now.
Yep, I fully agree with that. And, then he started throwing the ball and completed 8 of 9. I think his incompletion was a throwaway, I believe. Mm-hmm. Well, that's it for the podcast. I don't want to overreact. Because the game of football is filled with great backup quarterbacks who stepped on the field, totally baffled a team, prepared for another quarterback, did things that they weren't prepared for, and ripped them. I've seen it happen to K-State.
Yeah.
I think there was a game at Colorado many years ago where they threw a guy on the field that we never had heard of. Mm-hmm. A few years ago, Baylor did it.
Blake Shapen. Yep.
And it baffled K-State.
Yep.
And now those guys were never the same. They were good, but they just the element of surprise. Now everyone knows who Avery Johnson is. What he did against SEMO was not a fluke. He looks better in this game than he did against Southeast Missouri. And this is a Texas Tech team that's been playing pretty good football.
Yeah, they're good. That defense for Texas Tech, we talked about it earlier in the week, but there's definitely been some flaws with this Texas Tech defense. One of those was stopping the quarterback run. And so when Chris Kleiman mentioned that we might see Avery Johnson, he talked about it in his postgame comments on Postgame Radio, was we wanted to use him because they were giving us quarterback run, which why Texas Tech decided to just give K-State quarterback run is a little bit beyond me. But they did. and he took advantage of it. I want to go back, and I tweeted this out during the game, but it's worth repeating. Last year, Adrian Martinez, 12 carries, 171 yards, 3 touchdowns. Deuce Vaughn, 23 carries, 170 yards. They ran for 343 yards last year against Texas Tech.
Well, if you listened to the Powercat pregame podcast, you heard our Ryan Wallace talk in length about how Tech gives up yards to running quarterbacks or to any quarterbacks, not even running ones. So it was going to be open for Will Howard. We didn't see, that much of the running game. I'm not sure what Will's stats were from him, but as soon as they put Avery in, Chris Kleiman said they're playing, single safety high, and they're just letting us have the quarterback run game, and we took it. And it took forever to Tech to try to adjust, and then Avery Johnson and Colin Klein, the offense coordinator, adjusted and still made the plays. And like you said, you want to talk about a true freshman having knowledge of the game. It would have been so easy for Avery Johnson to say 6 touchdowns in a game. Here I go. Nope. He got the first down, slid down, ran out the clock, got the win. I'm
going to give flowers to the offensive line, too.
Oh, they were great.
They were really, really good. And I thought Hayden Gillum had arguably one of his better games of his career. I'll have to go back and kind of dig more into the film, but multiple times he was able to get to the second level and really make spring Avery for, those longer runs. Will Swanson, key block on that touchdown run for Avery Johnson, his first one, or second one, I should say, the one that put K-State in the lead. It was cool. And Ben Sinnott, we're sitting here talking about blocking. When you run for 5 touchdowns, that's obviously a big thing.
Ben Sinnott blocked everyone.
That was incredible. He pancaked a safety and then kicked out a cornerback on the same play. And if he didn't do either one of those, K-State wasn't going to score a touchdown. Avery was not going to be able to score. But the fact that he pancaked one guy, kicked out another guy, opened up a lane for Avery, that is NFL-type stuff to go along with 6 receptions for 72 yards.
How many times was he targeted? Oh, it doesn't show it on those stats, does it?
6 targets.
6 targets,
yep.
6 receptions.
Yeah. It was awesome. Ben Sinnott had one of his best games. And, again, for a team that only threw the ball 14 times, a completion percentage rate of 78% as a team between Will and Avery. And I'll just say this. I actually did not think that when Will was in the game, he performed bad. It was just obvious that if they were going to give K-State the quarterback run game, like Chris Kleiman said, if you're giving us that, we'll take it. If they weren't giving you quarterback run game, we would have seen more of Will Howard in that game.
I wonder at what point they realized we got to change what we're doing. Mm-hmm. I think it wasn't until his second touchdown of the second half, which was his 4th of the game, wasn't it? He scored all 5 touchdowns. Yeah. And then they finally said, oh, maybe we should do something different. And it still didn't work because that opened up other things which the freshmen took advantage of. And as I mentioned, Chris Kleiman said after the game, they planned on rotating the 2. But I don't know how you can go back to Will Howard as your starter, or at least as your full-time quarterback. Maybe he starts and you do the same thing, and then you go with a hot hand against TCU. But I won't be surprised if Will Howard starts just because he's earned it. He took this team to a Big 12 title and then continued to be a leader on the sideline. But you got to play Avery Johnson.
You have to.
You just have to. There's no way you can – this has been my point. I kept having people say, well, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have 1. That's a nice cliche, but you know what's a better cliche? Put your best athletes on the field. Mm-hmm. And they weren't doing that. And we became more and more alarmed by it because I think they were just putting Avery in a box in which she doesn't belong.
Mm-hmm. Even in the first half, they were, Fitz.
Yeah.
They refused to throw the ball with Avery in the first half until they kind of started to realize we have to try something else or else we're just going to,
kill the kid.
We're going to slam our hand in a car door. I will save the R-rated version of that saying. But you know what happens if you slam your hand in a car door over and over again? Are you going to keep doing it? The answer to that question is no. But in the first half, when Avery was in, they were slamming their hand in a car door.
Right.
But I thought it was a really good adjustment by Colin Klein because there was some – I'll just say it. The play calling was not good in the first half.
No.
It was not good. And it was going to be a reason. If they continued down that track, regardless if it was Will Howard or Avery Johnson, they were going to lose. There's no doubt in my mind. They would have lost this game 24-21 if that play calling of run, pass would have continued because it would have been run, pass, punt. That would have happened.
Yep. In Game 7 last year, Will Howard came off the bench at TCU and put a fire under K-State. And the fire kept going through the end of the season all the way through the Big 12 championship. He defined what K-State was going to be offensively, and he gave them life. The team noticeably played better with Will Howard on the field than Adrian Martinez and the play calling that accompanied him. Almost a year later, Week 7 is again TCU, but in Week 6, Avery Johnson came in and did all of those things times 10. He redefined what this K-State's offense about. He put everyone in the conference on notice, hey, I'm a true freshman. Have fun. Mm-hmm. And then he threw the ball around to make sure they understood, I can do this too if you want to come up and try to stuff me at the line of scrimmage, which everyone will do. But the moment of the game for me, Cole, and I did the post-game analysis, and we have a defining moment in there, and I picked the Avery Johnson touchdown followed by 3 interceptions that led to a couple more scores. That was my defining moment in that, and we need to talk about those 3 interceptions after the break. But for me, the defining moment was halftime, because Avery Johnson hadn't played the entire half. He'd played a chunk of it, and he led K-State to 2 touchdowns, scoring them both, 17-14 at halftime, knowing Tech was going to get the ball to start the second half, and they took the lead. Avery Johnson was the last guy to leave the sidelines. TV showed this. Mm-hmm. He stood on that sideline and slapped hands with every player to walk towards that locker room until there was no more, and then he went to the locker room. That's a true freshman. Understanding the role of a quarterback and the leadership that you must provide to the entire team.
Yep. Especially when they're still trying to figure out who you are.
Right. Great quarterbacks make the defense better, make special teams better. And I think we saw when he came in the game and redefined how the momentum of this game was going, the defense got better, had those 3 picks. And the special teams got fired up. Seth Porter was a man possessed. In fact, if his dad, Mark, is listening, you might want to schedule rabies shots because I think he was a rabid dog.
Yeah.
He was blowing up every Texas Tech kickoff return you could think of, and that was the strength of their game. Coming into the game, you and I shared the real fear that Kansas State was going to lose because of special teams. Mm-hmm. And instead, we saw Chris Tennant nail a 47-yard field goal. The punting was fantastic. And Seth Porter stopped everything. I mean, everything. Now, blocking on returns remains awful.
Yeah.
In fact, poor Phillip Brooks tried to return a punt, which he had a little bit of room, but then like the next 5 guys all were unblocked. Nobody blocked anyone.
Yeah, they tried to set up a left return, and it got punted to the right, and it was bad. But, yeah, I mean, they won special teams for the first time all year.
Yep.
Right? I mean, really, I'm not counting SEMO.
Yeah.
This was the first time they have won special teams, and it was almost like Seth – He hears what people are saying, and he understands that if K-State wants to be successful, they have to be successful on that unit. They were successful on that unit, and it just everything goes back to the quarterback position, doesn't it? It's amazing what happens, and I will be the first to admit this whole week I thought Will Howard was going to have a massive game. I thought Will was going to come out and he was going to silence the haters, as you could say. He didn't end up doing that, but he didn't need to because there was another guy that came in relief of him and performed amazingly. And so it was I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. You know, I'm probably not going to really realize what I saw for another few days, but that's why this podcast is important to hear, you know, our immediate reactions and thoughts. And my immediate reaction to that game is just, I don't think anybody would have expected, maybe the outcome. I think people could have expected the outcome, but the way it happened, nobody would have predicted that.
Yeah, even the biggest of the Avery Johnson supporters were going to, if you put him in, he'll have 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That was not on the table. An absolutely incredible performance by the freshman quarterback, true freshman quarterback, as K-State wins 38-21. We'll get into a little bit more of the defensive side of the ball. We'll look down the road at what this means for Kansas State, how this redefines the season, just as last week might have redefined the season. They're back on track. They're back in control of their destiny. But destiny isn't going to be easy. A lot of speed bumps ahead. We'll be right back on the Powercat Postgame Podcast, sponsored by my dogs. They're both asleep.
GoPowerCat.com's Powercat Podcast continues after this short break.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back to the Powercat Podcast.
Welcome back to the Powercat Postgame Podcast. Tim Fitzgerald, Cole Carmody in the Cats and Dogs studio. The Cats win, the Dogs fell asleep. That's how it's going to work out. K-State 38-21 as we sit here in the studio watching Colorado State, who has a quarterback with long blonde hair. The knockoffs have already started. Sunshine leads the Cats to victory. And if you don't know, Avery Johnson's nickname is Sunshine, and I think you'll know it from now on.
Yeah.
He lit up a stadium on a blackout night in Lubbock and absolutely took over and lit up all of college football with an electric performance that was absolutely incredible. But as much as impact as he had on the game, K-State's defense needed to be better. They gave up a lot of yardage in this contest, but they didn't give up a lot of points. And then in the second half, after Tech had to go to their third-string quarterback, bless his heart, who was not ready for this, he did look good on their first possession.
He did.
He led them to a touchdown.
Well.
And then.
Yeah, touchdown. I'm going to say that in quotations.
Yeah.
Continue.
And then 3 interceptions.
Yes.
3 straight interceptions, maybe 4 if Kobe Savage actually was the same possession. So Kobe Savage basically ended the same possession twice. He actually dropped 1 interception, had to get it on a replay, and then he picked it off in the end zone later. We talked to Joe Klanderman on Thursday about a lack of turnovers, a need to create more turnovers. Problem solved?
They brought the house, Fitz.
Yeah, as soon as they went to the freshmen, they sat back in zone so the defensive backs could have an eye on the ball and brought the house at the young quarterback and got him a lot of pressure.
And the reason why Strong had to come into this game was because they were consistently hitting Baron Morton, and he didn't want to be out there. Like, I'll just say that. There were times where he would get hit. I think he threw a touchdown in the first half. That would have been on the maybe it wasn't. The pass interference was from Strong, the non-pass interference, I should say. But there was a play where Baron Morton threw a pass towards the end zone, and Khalid Duke just absolutely murdered him. And he got back up, but he didn't want to get back up.
Yeah.
And the physicality level of this defense today, did they miss some tackles? Yeah, they missed a lot of tackles, especially in the first half. I was really impressed with this defense, especially the defensive front. You go look at the rushing yards. Taj Brooks, 17 carries for 98 yards. Now, is that probably where Joe Klanderman wants at 5.8 yards a rush? No. But compared to what Taj Brooks had been doing, it had been pretty good. And I think most of his yards actually came after contact. Very seldom was he able to just break through the line. He was getting hit, a yard or two past the line of scrimmage.
Just fighting guys off.
Yeah, and just going 2 or 3 more yards. So that was more on Taj Brooks. But once you made Texas Tech one-dimensional, they were toast. I mean, they were just toast, especially with Strong in there. So credit the defense. I thought they played great. Austin Romaine had probably his best game of the season. I thought he played really well at times.
First career sack.
Yep, first career sack. I mean, broken hand. Did we even know about that?
We had no idea until the announcers. Thanks, Chris Kleiman, for telling us.
Yeah.
He told the announcers that he broke his hand last week, or wrist or something.
Playing with a club on, and then he hurts his neck, but still comes back into the game. I mean, it was just impressive. And Jake Clifton had a really good game until he had the targeting call. Actually, it was a good thing for him that it happened with 50 seconds left to go in the half, because otherwise he would have had to have missed the first half. Had that happened 2 minutes later of actual game time, he would have been out for the first half of the TCU game. So good for Jake that happened when that did happen. But that was a momentum swing. If K-State ended up being a close game with K-State and Tech, I think you can go back to that play as the one that you circle, because that was a fumble and K-State got it. And they could have gone in and had a 2-score lead at halftime. Instead, Texas Tech drives down the field, ultimately gets a touchdown. They get the ball coming out, and then they score again. And it would have looked completely different had they gotten that fumble.
Look, we can argue about that call. I think by the definition of how they call targeting, it was a violent hit. To me, it's called football. Yeah. But that's what the game's ruled now. He caused a fumble, and I don't know. I didn't think there was anything dirty about it. I mean, if you're going down the middle of the field trying to catch a pass, that's part of the game. There
was no intent to injure.
No.
There was no intent to light him up, and
that should be what targeting's about.
He was trying to jar the ball loose.
Right. You lower your helmet to spear. Look, did he hit him with his helmet? Yeah, but that wasn't the intent. Your head's the first thing to get there.
Right.
I don't think there's common sense in it. They're trying to protect players. I get it. Austin Moore, 8 tackles, led the Cats. Kobe Savage, 7. Jacob Parrish, who did play, 6. That was a big part of this game. Marquise Siegel, 6. Some more problems on the back end with him. And like I said, they had 2 sacks, one by Clee Duke and one by Austin Romaine. A really solid defensive effort, but a lot of yards given up. Worried about that?
No, because of how many plays Texas Tech ran. Do they have that on the stat sheet?
Yeah, someplace. We're
total plays 79.
We're using stats off the internet. So
Texas Tech ran 79 plays. K-State ran 64. So remember a few weeks ago when K-State ran 82 plays and scored 44 points against UCF? Well, on 79 plays, K-State only gave up 21 points. So Texas Tech was going really fast. They were getting to third downs. They had 13 third down attempts and 5 fourth down attempts. They were getting to third down a lot. And K-State was pretty successful. 4-13 on third downs is pretty dang good. And even 3 of 5 on fourth down against Texas Tech, I think you have to take that, because that's typically a 4th and 3 situation or less. I thought K-State was really good in that department. But I think the yards just come from being gassed and from how many plays Texas Tech ran. Like, it was clear in the fourth quarter, Jacob Parrish was gassed.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll just call it how it is. He hadn't played in how long? I mean, they obviously had the bye week, and then he didn't play against Oklahoma State, so first game action in a while. He was gassed. Some of those guys, Matthew Mashmeyer was on the field, Fitz. Those guys were gassed.
Yep. They were running out of bodies at some point. Special teams, I want to back up and talk about Jake Bloomer. Right, Jake? Did I just get that wrong?
Well, Kleiman calls him Jake, but it's Jack.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's where I got that from. Mm-hmm. Jack Bloomer, 5 punts, averaged 44 yards, including a long of 55. All 5 were inside the 20-yard line.
It's kind of amazing how he is, turned into a weapon. There's been no drop-off between him and Ty Zentner. Who would have thought?
Yeah, he's been really good. He's been so good we don't talk about him because he's been rock solid. They did try Trayshawn Ward as a returner on the kickoff.
And the broadcast called him Phillip Brooks in the very beginning part.
Well, they kind of look the same between that 8 and 9.
They do with the hair.
It's kind of hard to tell. So they tried some new stuff on special teams. Mostly what they accomplished in this game, though, Cole, was rediscovering their fire. Mm-hmm. And they really didn't have it for that much in the first half. It's like they're trying to build up to it. And then the kid named Sunshine let him up. And it does kind of redefine things going forward. But boy, if the lesson hasn't been learned, guys, you're not good enough to look past teams in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Look, Oklahoma State turned around. Great game. Kansas played well. Oklahoma State won. Kansas played its ass off and lost by 7. K-State stunk it up last week and lost by 8. Oklahoma State's back on track. Has a win over both of them. They'll get the Sunflower Showdown trophy this year. They're just going to give it to Oklahoma State.
Is Oklahoma State the third best team in this conference?
I don't think so. I think Kansas State is.
I mean, I'm with you. I agree with that, but...
And now what the Kansas State needs to do, and where I'm going with this, is they come home and play a TCU team that kicked the living crap out of BYU. I was unbelievable.
I was shocked. I was shocked.
That was so bad, beer sales in Provo occurred. That's how bad it was.
Maybe a little bit more than beer.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to get too crazy with this. But TCU's got to feel better, too, coming in here after they lost it. Where did they lose that last week? They played awful. Iowa State? Iowa State kicked the crap out of Cincinnati. So suddenly some of those teams that still are on K-State's schedule, TCU next week, Houston beating West Virginia the week after, kind of fluky, I get it, but they did. They both have some wins this week. Those are the next two opponents. You have to take care of business. You have to defend your home field. If you do that from here on out, the worst you'll be is 8-4. And your 2 road games remaining, because you just got half of your Big 12 road games out of the way back-to-back. The schedule's now to K-State's advantage. They have 4 at home and 2 on the road.
Wow.
1 on the road is in Lawrence.
That's amazing. That is an amazing part about this schedule, right? I mean, you leave the state of Kansas one time the rest of the year.
And where do you go? Austin, Texas, where the Big 12 title appearance will go through. Mm-hmm. You got to win in Austin if you want to go to the Big 12 championship game. Period. They have a loss, but you got to have the tiebreaker by beating them. And so even if you lose another game, you got the tiebreaker.
And I'm going to say this. And we're not looking. I mean, we're in the media. We can look ahead. That's what our job is, to get people to look ahead so they can interact with us, right? So that's our job. And I'll just say this: assuming K-State can take care of business, which is not always a very good assumption. Like we just said, that TCU game is going to be tough. We'll obviously be able to break that down in depth here this week. But you go to Austin after beating TCU, after beating Houston, with Avery Johnson as your quarterback. Avery Johnson is faster than a lot of those guys on Texas. If you're looking for the speed element, because that's what you have to beat Texas. You have to have some kind of speed, because they have speed all over the field. Well, Avery Johnson can match Texas's speed. Mm-hmm. Does he maybe give you the best chance to win that game? Like that's where you're looking at. And, we'll see how Texas comes out next weekend against Houston, which, by the way, that could turn into be a sneaky game. That is in Houston against Texas. Houston's coming off of a big win. I'm not saying it's going to be an upset, but Texas is going to be a double-digit favorite. I smell like Oklahoma State, K-State vibes with that game.
Well, that's interesting you say that. I will say this about Houston. I think they're incredibly horribly coached.
They are horrible.
I've never been a fan. I'll just leave it at that. Dana Horse. It seems like a guy I want to have a Red Bull vodka with, but that's about it. Mm-hmm. They are really athletic.
They are.
They are the kind of athletes that kind of pester Houston or pester Texas and give them trouble. I really believe that. I don't think they'll win, but I think they're going to – I would bet the spread on Houston. Mm-hmm. I imagine it's going to be like 16.
Yeah, it's going to be big. I mean, that's potentially the best team, one of the top 2 team in the conference versus the bottom 2 team in the conference. But this conference is suddenly turning into anybody can beat anybody. I said on our live today that I thought all dogs could win outright. And I was close. All of them did, except for BYU, obviously.
Which you thought you were going to win.
Right. I was very confident in that. Obviously, that didn't happen. But this is a turning. I think K-State's win today is probably the best win, maybe outside of Houston over West Virginia, of any team in the conference, simply because of the way they won. I mean, this was a completely redefining effort from this team.
I guess I want to close up shop with a reminder to K-State fans about who you are. Will Howard has led this program to a Big 12 championship. Remember how you celebrated with Will Howard on the field after Oklahoma State last year. Don't Don't turn on him. He's a talented quarterback, not playing as well as he should, and might have been supplanted by a generational talent. We kind of thought this might happen, but when you see it in reality, I feel for Will because there's no way anyone in that situation can't realize he's better. I mean, he's got to play. And now how Will handle it will define his, how he's viewed at Kansas State long term. But I'll tell you this, if anyone boos Will Howard for coming onto the field next Saturday, I would hope people correct him in the stands. Kid's given a lot to K-State football. And I think if you want to direct boos, if they don't play Avery Johnson, then make sure you direct those boos at the coaches. Because if we don't see Avery Johnson a lot next Saturday at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, I'll be dismayed and confused. But I know this also, Chris Kleiman is a smart coach. He's going to do what it takes to win. Last year, he switched quarterbacks. Remember when Adrian came back, we wondered, well, will he take back over? Well, he did for a little bit, but no, it became Will Howard's team.
You know what this reminds me of, Fitz, as we get ready to wrap up here? There was two quarterbacks at a certain university in Alabama, and they were both very talented. One had won on them a national championship. There was another freshman that was supposedly a true freshman that was supposed to be really good. Well, Coach Saban, one of the best coaches, if not the greatest coach of all time in college football history, decided that he was going to sit his national championship winning quarterback to play a true freshman. Well, there was a moment in time in an SEC championship game where that national championship winning quarterback needed to come into the game because that freshman got hurt. And that quarterback prepared his butt off and won them that SEC championship game, helped him win another national championship. That's Jalen Hurts, who is now a front runner for an MVP, and Tua Tagovailoa, who is also a front runner for an NFL MVP. Both those guys had the exact same situation that's going on right now. I'm not comparing Will Howard to Jalen Hurts, and I'm not comparing Tua to Avery Johnson. But what I am saying is that both of these circumstances are similar. And if you look at the mentality of Jalen Hurts and you look at the mentality of Will Howard, both of those guys are leaders on their team, and both of them will be ready to step up at any moment.
K-State wins at Texas Tech 38-21 in a game that took place at night, but the sunshine was blinding.
Thank you for listening to the Powercat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
You ready to ride?
I thought you'd never ask.
Now streaming on Paramount Plus. It's the new original series, Lawmen, Bass Reeves.
Bass dedicated to justice.
From executive producer Taylor Sheridan, co-creator of Yellowstone, starring executive producer and Emmy Award-nominated actor David Oyelowo. It's the untold story.
I'm warning you.
Of the greatest American lawman.
Your wicked days are done.
Lawmen, Bass Reeves, new original series, now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.